All right, just kind of going back on Saturday's game. A lot of credit to what Coach Napier's built there, and that's a great team. Top 25, as Brant just said. Solid team, but really the story again is the turnovers. Kind of a unique situation. Brady he was hurting in that game, so TV got the nod to go in, and you start off the first play of the game with a fumble, and then you see the defense playing well and getting them to miss field goals and going back and forth with 3 and outs, and the offense stalling at around midfield and trying to flip field for field position, and Louisiana did a good job at capitalizing off of those kind of that first quarter. It ends up being 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. We're driving down 2 score, and then we have another unfortunate fumble that ended up being recovered inside the 10-yard line on the 6-yard line. So. Really just kind of the moral of the story of it is the turnovers, and you can't do that versus a quality team like Louisiana, and they're very good with ball control. They're very efficient in what they do. I thought, again, we had our moments of doing great things, and then we have our moments of doing bad things, and the consistency like it is every week has got to increase, and especially versus a team like that. There's a few teams in our league that you have to play clean ball, like very clean football, and expect to get turnovers and capitalize off of that momentum, and we didn't do that in this game, and you start off the third quarter and they go down and score and they make it 24-0, and it got out of hand pretty quickly, based off of where we're at, and got to put in a lot of different guys and play a lot of different guys in that second half, and just move forward to try to finish out this year on a high note with 4 games left. I think our kids are anxious to get back out there again, especially off of a disappointing loss, a kind of an embarrassing loss. Of that nature, of that caliber last week, and we got 4 more games left. We got homecoming with Louisiana Monroe coming in, who is a very quality team. They've got some momentum, they got some energy right now. Coach Bowden has been a proven head coach for, I think this is his 26th year as a head coach, and known him for a while, and he's doing some great things. Rich Rod is their offensive coordinator, and familiar with Rich Rod and just cross paths with him. He's a great person, great guy, and a really good football coach, and they've got a spark right now. I think what they're doing on offense, unfortunate circumstances for Rhett Rodriguez. They got the Charles Rogers kid in right now, and he's actually playing very efficient right now, and he's running the ball efficiently. Their run RPO kind of QB, run game, which is some really good stuff to defend, and they're putting up good numbers. They got a lot of people with touches, a lot of receivers are touching the ball. So it's going to be a great challenge on our defensive side of the ball. Offensively, they're very multiple. You're going to see a whole gamut of defenses, all different fronts, from bear fronts to odd fronts to stack fronts to 4-down fronts, and they're going to play man and cobra and cover 3 and cover 4. I'm telling you, they do a mixture of everything in this game. So we've got to be able to execute, take what they're giving us, and the thing that I have a lot of respect for with them is how hard they play. They play extremely hard. They cause a lot of turnovers because of the effort that they play with. So this is going to be a great challenge for us. Exciting game for us with homecoming, and looking forward to getting back out there and playing again. So, questions.
With Brady McBroom, how serious is that injury, and do you anticipate him being back soon, or what's going on there?
He practiced today, and he's looking way better than what he's been. It wouldn't be fair to him to put a kid in versus Louisiana who's not even close to 100%. And he's got kind of one of those unique injuries that just takes time. It's just kind of one of those high ankle type deals that the pain has now moved from the front of his foot to the side of his foot, which is a good sign. So we got to keep monitoring where he is. He's going to be more of a game time decision. He could have went in that game last week from an emergency situation if needed, but like that, it just wasn't fair to him. So we went with T-Vid and Ty last week, and going in this week, Brady will be in the mix, and we'll see where it goes. But they're all taking reps right now.
It seemed like the strategy with Vitt last week was obviously run heavy. You guys ran the ball quite a bit. Was that a strategy going into it on your part, and why not play Ty Evans a little more in that game?
Yeah, we didn't really have very many opportunities, to be honest with you, in that game. We had 50 plays. We slowed the game down, a lot. We had 50 plays and had a little over 28 minutes of possession, which shows you, we were ball controlling as best as we could. Obviously the turnovers were the issues of where it was at, but that is a very sound defense that is very confident in their defensive front. they play. It's really like a two-man concept on every single snap. So like we knew that we had to establish a run. We were actually already preparing for to run T-bit in packages, and then unfortunately with Brady and where he was at, and like after going through the Wednesday practice, we just gave him the no-go on last week. So we just rode with T-bit, and we really didn't have that many opportunities to actually get into a momentum to put Ty Evans in the game. You could have maybe put him in the last drive of the game, or the second to last drive of the game. But they ended up ball controlling very well in that second half and had to have the ball majority of the game. But when you only have 50 plays of offensive football, there's not really many opportunities for other guys to play.
Because you've been talking about kind of the consistency of the team, do you feel like you guys are making strides with that?
Yeah, it's just like everybody is taking their turn right now. Like you talk with Brady and the interceptions, and first half for South Alabama with his interceptions that it's kind of on everybody like we talked about, and then he rallies back and wins, and then Troy plays 3 solid quarters and then throws 3 picks in the fourth quarter. So the consistency is not there with him, and then you get into this game, and Calvin has I think that's his first career fumble. It's just so uncharacteristic of that kid. And it's part of the game. It happens, and versus a team like Louisiana, you can't do that. And then Brock ended up having a fumble there. It's just kind of like everybody is having like their times, but. We keep talking to them on, just, hey, you got to keep showing up, you got to keep working, and eventually the ball is going to bounce our way. We just got to keep, the mindset of executing and playing with intention and playing with purpose, and eventually it's all going to click and be consistent. But right now, like you see, just good signs of things, and then you'll have some of those moments, and especially versus Louisiana, going back to them, you can't have drop balls, you can't have the turnovers. They had so many short fields in this game. We gave them, like 2, turnovers that were, in their favor, and good field position. The interception in Calvin's, they had a blocked field goal that ended up with good field position as well, and they had a couple of returns as well that were kind of in short fields. So you can't do that versus a team like that. So I think these kids they know where we stand, and we got to go out there and execute this weekend.
Don Coryell put out a statement yesterday kind of saying he's going to increase the budget and kind of had some support for you in there. What did you think of him putting that out there and the words he had to say in it?
Yeah, Don and I talk on a consistent basis. We've been talking and having these conversations for a long time now. And like that's something that, you appreciate of Don, because he's looking at the outcome of, what we need to improve. You go into Louisiana, and they've been building that program for a long time, and just to see the support staff and the help and the facilities and just the size and the recruiting and where it's at, we want to compete at a high level, and that's what we want to do. And Don and I have a lot of meetings. We talk all the time on what we need to do from a recruiting standpoint, facility to just an operation, a staffing, just anything that we've got to do to improve. And that's kind of the mindset that we've had, ever since we've came into this program is, every single day you got to make it better, man. Like where we talk all the time is that we've flipped our roster tremendously right now compared to where we were in 2019, but it's still comparable to the rest of the league. It's not where we want to be yet, and we've got to keep recruiting at a high level and gaining more depth. It's a fun league to be a part of. It's a competitive league, and everybody is increasing their game, and we've got to do the same. And Don recognizes that, and he's talked a lot about the direction of this program and what we got to do and how we got to make it better than what it was. And Don wants to win just as bad as everybody in this program, and as long as we have that mindset of getting better every single day, this program is going to keep going in the direction and the trajectory that we want it to go. You look at Louisiana, just compared to that, like they've been building that for a long time. That's a long time coming for them, and we see that we can be comparable to that if we just keep, making the necessary changes needed. And Don is, we've been adamant about it, and he is putting out that statement of support because he believes in everything that we're doing, and we got to just keep with the same trajectory that we're doing, and then keep getting every day, keep getting it better. And that's what I love about how this university is right now. Everybody wants to win, and we've got to make sure that we're all hitting on all cylinders to make sure that we're going to compete at a high level.
You mentioned recruiting, and obviously this most recent class had a lot of transfer players.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, that was part strategy and part you got to do what you got to do with some of the offers y'all put out, like you've said earlier. Is that kind of the same situation going into this one? Obviously, you can't talk about players, but kind of the same strategy?
We're still doing the same, like, recruiting high school kids as many as we can. We're also hitting junior colleges, and we're looking at the transfer portal. The transfer portal has been absolutely insane this year already. I don't know if you follow that as much, but like there's probably more people in it right now than what there were last year. It's such a unique time. They've got a 25 initial counter with 7 more now, so you can sign up to really. It's really up to 32. With us, I believe it's 33 due to some other circumstances, but like that's where the game's going right now. Like it's you look at like Louisiana and all the transfers that they had, and all the you look at South Alabama and all the transfers that they played with. I think the thing that you're seeing in today's league right now is all the super seniors. So you're seeing the super seniors on top of like all the transfers that they bring in, and and then some areas with like Lafayette, they have 140 on their roster, and we have 120. So like there's a lot of different things, and those are discussions like Don and I have all the time too. Of how do we get to that, and what do we got to do, and to improve with that, and like recruiting is such a unique thing right now, like it is, and we went out in our bye week and we hit really majority of all the local high schools and still putting our imprint on the Texas High School Coaches Association but at the same time we still got to keep our options open and like our database is larger than what it's ever been because everybody's searching, everybody's picking through things. You can't sit there and prepare for like a 25 initial signing class. You got to prepare for like a 33 based off of just the attrition of the season and where like these graduation rates are going. Like I'm telling you, there's a lot of moving parts with this whole deal, and you've got to be able to sign as many as you can at all different levels. It's high school, junior colleges, and the transfer portal. And like what do you see with like a team like with Louisiana? They got a lot of guys that were Power 5 guys. They're getting a lot of Power 5 transfers to come to their school, and you're seeing that trend across the board. But we're still recruiting everybody we possibly can.
Coach, you talked about kind of the number of transfers that you've brought in and how you've flipped the roster with some of these guys. Do you feel like the program would be in a different place had it been majority high school players?
Yeah, we'd have some really rough times, like in terms of just putting some guys in that aren't ready. Like you sit there and you look at like some of the high school kids that we've brought in this program. It's taken them years to get to where they need to be, and we've gotten some quality high school kids, from Isaiah Nixon and Jordan Revels and. Like those type of guys are going to be, people that have taken a couple years to kind of get to where they are. Like Jordan wasn't completely ready, but he got thrown in the mix really early at a young age, because we had to. But there's going to be a lot of those kind of like high school kids that like we need to keep, like looking into and developing because like with us, like you've got to bring in as many guys as you possibly can at, at all facets because like, like there's also an experience side, like especially in the trenches, you're going to have to get bigger and more experience. But like a skill position, you can bring in guys like, like Donovan Moore and Ashton Hawkins who are still, they have 1 year in junior college ball, but they're still, 4-year guys with development, and they're still kind of babies to us right now. So those are our developmental guys as well. So there is a ton of discussions. The roster management meetings happen. We do it twice a week now. Just in terms of where guys are at on your current roster, to what we need, what are the fixes, and then it takes its time. There's a lot of time that is needed to do it, and we have a lot of long meetings on where we're at because it's constantly changing. But we still, if we would have brought in a ton of high school kids, it would have been a learning curve for a lot of those guys.
And then, this past week, the Sun Belt added, I think, 3, maybe 4 schools. I wanted to get your thoughts on what that means for the league.
Yeah, I think our league has taken a strong stance on the quality of who we are. I think we're one of the premier group of 5, leagues out there now. If you look at just, with Coastal Carolina and Louisiana and App State, those are top 30 teams right now in the country. And then just adding some guys, just from Marshall and Old Dominion and Southern Miss, like those are solid programs as well with tradition, So I love the stance that Commissioner Gill's taken. I love the stance that all the athletic directors have taken that, that this is the league to be in. So we're going to take our stance on who we want to come into this league. And, you just kind of look through, the quality of programs and the facilities and the upgrades that everybody's doing. I think this is going to be a very tough league moving forward. it's going to be a fun league to be a part of, because it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. I think there's some, rivals, that are going to be kind of brought back up again, from just, past Sun Belt teams. So, like, just the more, rivals you get, the better this league's going to be. So, very excited for the future of this conference.
Do you know anything about Marshall having a West Virginia connection at all? Any
Yeah,
close ties there?
my wife's family's pretty excited about this one. Just being in Huntington, West Virginia. I know it's really cold there, especially at this time of the year. So that was always a thing that happened when we were in the Conference USA, when I was at Houston and when I was at University of Tulsa in 2008 and 2009, and Marshall was in that league. Like, you've got to prepare those kids for the cold. I'll never forget, like, when Houston went up there on a Thursday night, and the second the plane doors opened and that cold breeze hit them, like, it's like we lost the game right there. And that was a long night. I'll never forget that, and that was something that when Dana and I went to West Virginia, we always talked about, like, the elements, and you got to play in the elements. If you watch NFL teams, if you get to the playoffs, like, you got to play in the cold. Tom Brady wore a wetsuit, every single time that he played in, like, Foxborough, and Huntington gets cold, and you got to be able to play in those elements because it is a distraction at times. And when we were at West Virginia, we went outside. We had a beautiful indoor, and I'd always dog cuss Dana about it because he would take everybody outside in the freezing and in the snow and everything to play, because that is a competitive advantage. It's just playing in that cold weather. But Marshall has a great fan base. They've had great traditions, great players come through there. Just the pride in that state, for that program. It's going to be a great addition for this conference.
What about ULM coming up? What can we anticipate? Both sides of the ball, offense and defense. What have you kind of look at them?
Yeah, they're a good team, man. I think that it's year one for Coach Bowden, and they've had some injuries, and they've been working through some things. So, like, you see a lot of different identity changes throughout the course of the first 8 games that they played, and I think they play extremely hard. They're a very disciplined team. And you just kind of look at, like, kind of the outcomes of, like, their games. It's just kind of bizarre to me because, like, they lose to Coastal and App, are 2 really good teams, and they lose, by a lot of points. But then they come back and they beat Liberty, which is a very solid team, and they get after South Alabama. And, what was the other one that they won? That was a good Troy, and they beat a Troy team and got after them, and they played a different identity on all those games. Like versus Troy, they came out in 3 down and played drop 8 the entire game. They come out versus South Alabama, and they end up playing man-free the entire, really, quarter and a half, the fourth quarter and half of the third quarter, and they just are aggressive in your face. So, like, defensively, we're going to have to be ready for every single look imaginable. We're going to have to figure out how they're going to play us. Because they're extremes. They're going to be a drop 8, keep everything underneath, or they're going to come after you and play man free, and then they got every single other coverage, in between that they sprinkle in. So, and I think that their D line, they don't ask them to do much, but they just play hard with the motor, and they just try to dominate their guy in front of them and let the backers play. The backers, they shed blocks well. They shoot their gun, man. They don't hesitate. They don't blink. They run straight through it. Like, they're not afraid to run through a running back in protection. You see their DBs doing the same thing. They got confidence in their DBs. They play a lot of one-on-ones and they're long and athletic. And what you got to do is, like, the teams that move the ball on, they got to make plays. Like, it's going to be contested across the board. And then offensively, just what Coach Rodriguez does, what Rich Rod does. He's going to spread you out, and there's going to be a lot of QB run. And a lot of, like, their inside-outside zones and their GT, and, they're going to have the QB running it or, doing read sweeps with it all. And then at the same time, they're distributing the ball all over the field with their RPOs. So we've got to, like, really guard every single inch of that field, and we got to tackle. We haven't been tackling well the past 2 weeks, and this is going to be one of those games that we got to do that, So they're solid across the board. They got good kickers, too. They're simple on special teams, then that allows them to play extremely hard. So it's going to be a good challenge for us. They're 4-4, and they've got some good juice right now coming in here.
Coach, this is a team that you beat last year. What are some of the changes, the main changes that you've seen the new coaching staff bring to that program?
Just the variety of what they're doing. I thought Coach Viator did a great job as well at ULM and what he built there, and I had no idea he was an analyst at Louisiana. I got the opportunity to see him after the game. He's just a really solid guy, but. Going back to ULM, the personnel is pretty much the same. And like last year, we had to make plays. If you remember, like Haydell hit a big time play. That was like a good 60, 70-yard play. Haydell made some jump balls and like go balls to the end zone. Barbie made an unbelievable catch. If you guys remember that one too. And you got to run the ball. T-Vit played well versus him last year, and that still went down to the wire. We ended up having to get a pick six by Baby J to actually put the game away. And you just kind of look at where their personnel is. They're about the same as what they've been, but like they're playing very hard right now. Like I think just with how multiple they are in their schemes, it's a different type of scheme compared to what they were last year on offense. And defense, they're kind of mixing in everything out there, but they're going to be aggressive and they're going to come at you, which is very similar to what they did last year.
Coach Pilton, you were talking about the wins that they've had and maybe being a little bit hard to read when you look at some of the blowout losses that they've had. What have you seen that's been a difference in them in those wins versus the games where they've just been run off the field?
I think there's injuries, and there's a lot of different moving parts to it all. Like I think App State's very good. Like you watch them, and we don't play App this year, but like you have a lot of crossover tape, and they're in 11 and 12 personnel, and they're running the ball, and their quarterback was on in that game, and that's a tough game, and like you saw them work through it all. They're in this kind of odd flex stuff and doing Cobra, and it pretty unique, but like. Coastal is a very solid team too. Like in those, like it's like App State, Coastal, and Louisiana. You've got to play very clean football. Like you can't be turning the ball over. You got to get them to get them off the field. You got to create turnovers. You got to capitalize on it because those three teams are playing at an extremely high level, and that's why they're all roughly top 25. The ones that I'm surprised with, is just they show up every single week and they're going to scrap and fight and you look at what they did to Liberty. Which is a very solid program. Like they had a lot of hype going into this game, and they got after him pretty well, and they played man free, and they got after him. So, I think too, with this quarterback that's playing right now, they've kind of got a rhythm, and they've got like the kids making some really good plays with the run game. And what happens is if you can get that run game going, it's going to isolate some one-on-ones, and they're making those plays right now. So. It's kind of hard to tell. I do think they've gone through some injuries at times too, so like they're still trying to work through some stuff. But right now, I think they're in a rhythm and they're playing their best ball.
If you look at your remaining schedule, 3 of the 4 teams on it, they've had their own struggles with some ups and downs and some losing streaks in there. Is there maybe a chance in there for your team to kind of pick up some momentum as you go into this part of your schedule heading, for your program heading in towards the off season?
Yeah, we really just focus one game at a time. Like we're not good enough right now to be focusing down the road. But like you look at it like this league is, you talk about the Coastal and Louisiana and App State, like those guys are playing at a high level. But I think everybody else can beat anybody at any time. And that's what makes this league pretty fun. If you look just across the conference, man, there's so many just close games. It comes down to the wire. There's overtime games. Like the ULM game was a shootout versus South Alabama. And it goes 41-31 at the end. And it's just they're fun games to be a part of. But I think this is an opportunity for us to bounce back from last week's win, last week's loss. And that was a rough loss, and you lose 45-0. Like you're pretty anxious to get back out there and redeem yourself. So we focus it one day at a time. We know what we've got to do. There's no more talking with our team. It's all about action. We got to go show everybody that we are a good team and we can compete with anybody.
Lastly, you'll be without Jordan Revel's first half. How big is impact does that have for the first 30 minutes?
Yeah, that's tough. I think Revels is one of our better players. He's playing at a high level. Every single coach, before the game or after the game, they're always very complimentary of Jordan, just how hard he plays. And we did some unique things with him last week. We put him at the rush, and he was causing a lot of problems, we're going to miss his presence early, but, like, we've got to have people step up. That's what the game of football is about. It's about the next man up. And it's an opportunity for someone else to go in there and make a name for themselves. I know Jordan's going to be board. I was talking about I'd give him a coaching polo and a visor if he needed to for the first half, and then he'll be ready to roll for that second half. So it'll be a long first half for him. I know that because he's a kid that loves to play the game.
Injuries? Any other injuries from last game that we missed?
Injuries, there's nothing like crazy. It's Brady was probably the biggest one going back into it. Besides that, we're relatively healthy from what we've been in the past weeks. Really we had a kind of a run of season-ending injuries. Every single week from somebody, but we came out pretty healthy in this one.